Tackling a new diet or exercise program can always be a bit of a risky endeavor. There's so many unknowns, and will it work? It's always a bit of a risk. So I'm making today's video to give you kind of a proverbial crystal ball of what are the red flags that kind of indicate that that new diet or exercise program is kind of doomed to fail, and what are the green flags that means you're completely on the right track. Hello, my friend. It's Matt Schifferly here, along with my kitty cat, Ska. You may hear her on the audio. We're simplifying fitness by observing the fundamental processes of modern human nature to give you more power, control, and freedom, helping you to be fit and live free. And the first thing to recognize about any new diet and exercise program that's a big red flag is it getting much harder and compromising your quality of life as you're going along and getting deeper into it? Because ultimately, the things that work best for us are the ones that enhance our quality of life. They feel like they're really leveling things up in mind, body, and lifestyle. And if it's going in the wrong direction, it's typically getting harder and more stressful, and something that is just feeling like more and more of a slog. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be remedied if it's just effective. Lots of times we make the mistake in thinking, well, if I'm losing weight or if I'm building muscle and getting what I want, then that's going to be enough to sustain my progress and motivate me. But that very rarely is ever the case. People quit effective diet and exercise programs all the time because, remember, your emotional subconscious doesn't care if it's effective. It cares if your new habits are worth following. Cost to benefit ratio. So when you are doing something and it's getting harder on your mind and your body and your lifestyle, and it's becoming more stressful, even if it's working, if it's not worth that added compounding stress and fatigue, then you're going to lose the motivation for it, and it's ultimately doomed to fail. The second red flag that your diet or exercise program is doomed to fail is it based, particularly for a diet, on restriction? In other words, less calories, less sugar, less processed foods, less animal products, less, or from a workout perspective, just work your tail off, more and more work, harder and harder and harder. Now, that's not to say that cutting back on things isn't bad for a diet, certainly can be. And that's not to say that you do have to put in a lot of hard work and effort in order to get what you work out. So of course, that's the case. But remember that both restriction and hard work and effort are diminishing rate of return scenarios, and they're also almost impossible to scale. So they're only going to be beneficial to some degree. And after a certain point, they're going to be less beneficial, or in fact, maybe even detrimental. So cutting back even more on carbs or calories and sugar can actually hurt your long-term progress. Or when it comes to working out, just driving yourself into the ground and no longer being able to adequately recover, now you're adding even more stress on mind, body, and lifestyle, and less effectiveness. And when the only game plan you have for making it effective is eating less of whatever and working harder, you're now painting yourself into a proverbial corner. Not to mention the fact that true success from a diet and a workout program requires a heck of a lot more than just not eating certain things too much and working as hard as possible. There's a lot more nuance to it. So if your diet is much more holistic and is focusing on health, well-being, a well-rounded approach, and is more focused on what are you consuming that's bringing you benefit, and also when it comes to your workout, it's focused more on how do you do things better, not just harder, so you're doing better technique and better proficiency and better ways of using your body, that's usually a sign that you're going to continue to make progress without just driving yourself into the ground with endless restriction and endless work and effort. The third big red flag that your program's probably doomed to fail is based on how flexible and adaptable or malleable it can be in various circumstances. Because we have to recognize that diet and exercise habits are great, but if they only work in a lab or in this proverbial perfect scenario where you've got plenty of time and energy and motivation and all the right resources, then it's probably not going to work very well because it has to work with real life. It has to work in scenarios where you don't have much time or energy and you find yourself at a Waffle House at 3 a.m. like I once did and stuff, you're going to have scenarios that are ultimately going to be out of alignment with whatever an optimal or best or perfect workout program is. So the best programs out there are ones that are not super strict and rigid, but are the ones that have some degree of flexibility and the ability to adapt to your circumstances. And then finally, the third red flag / green flag about whether or not your program is going to really work for you is it evolving over time? This may be something that you don't really recognize, especially in the early stages of that new program or whatnot. But eventually everything changes and evolves and adapts in order to best accommodate you and your specific needs and preferences. So maybe you're doing the paleo challenge and stuff, but eventually you may add in butter and some rice. Or you might be doing this workout program, but instead of deadlifts, you're adding kettlebell swings instead. This evolution is natural. It's supposed to happen in order for it to basically be more customizable to your circumstances, which too are also inevitably going to change. But when our diet and our workout programs are so rigid and dogmatic that they refuse to evolve, even though it would be in your best interest, that's usually a bit of a sign that you're starting to circle the drain and you're probably either going to give up on the program and then start over with something else and the whole process begins again, or you give yourself permission to make those tweaks and those changes in order for it to evolve and transcend what it was into something much better that it ultimately can be. So I wholeheartedly hope that you're on a good path, my friends. If you are struggling, if you need any help at all with any of the new ideas that I've been coming out with and stuff, hit the link down below in the description. All the resources for Red Delta Project can be found through that. And I wish you the best of luck. Like, share, subscribe, share this along if you find this helpful. Other people may very well as well. It's good karma for you. And I'll talk to you in the next video. Be fit and live free.